Little brother, watch out. Zhu Shanning didn't wait for a reply. She launched herself forward, her movements sharp and disciplined. Xue Jing. Ning Fengna screamed from the sidelines, terrified that her investment was about to be broken. But to Xue Jing, the attack didn't look like a blur. His aiming skill, which enhanced his dynamic vision, broke her movement down frame by frame. Whoosh! He didn't retreat. Instead, he stepped into her guard. As her fist came flying, he intercepted it with terrifying precision, grabbing her wrist mid-air. Using her own forward momentum against her, Xue Jing twisted his body and threw her off balance. It was a textbook counter-grapple, executed with the ease of someone taking out the trash. The little senior sister was sent spinning away like a top. She stumbled, her eyes swirling in confusion as she tried to figure out which way was up. On the sidelines, the atmosphere among the direct disciples shifted from amusement to genuine interest. Dynamic vision and grappling positioning are quite accurate, Li Qi noted, analyzing the brief exchange with a critical eye. Next to him, the green-haired Chen Fuguan grinned, clearly entertained. He has the style I had in my younger days, he laughed. You really found a good seedling for this old man. Master Meng Bosheng threw his head back, laughing heartily as he stroked the black cat on his lap. The tension in the room evaporated instantly. The cat, Ning Fengna, puffed out her chest with a smug expression. Of course, look who I am, she seemed to say. But internally, she let out a massive sigh of relief. And I was sweating for him just now. She admitted to herself, wiping invisible sweat from her brow. Xue Jing straightened up, dusting off his hands. So, old dojo master, was my dojo storming successful? As he asked, a cascade of golden notifications flooded his vision, tallying the rewards of the spar. You experienced a battle where the weak defeated the strong, fighting EXP plus 211, and, inevitably, you received a large amount of favorability, charm plus 50. Master Meng wheeled himself forward, his expression beaming. Without a doubt, he declared, you are already qualified to become a direct disciple. He paused, a grandfatherly smile crinkling his eyes. So, isn't it time to change the form of address? Xue Jing didn't miss a beat. He clasped his hands together and bowed respectfully. Master. Hello senior brothers and senior sisters. The green-haired disciple, Chen Fuguang, burst out laughing, clapping Xue Jing on the shoulder. Ha 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 ha, 7th junior brother, good. Hey, what about me? From the floor, a disgruntled voice piped up. Zhu Shanning was sitting there, rubbing her sore arm. She looked up at Xue Jing, her face flushed with a mix of embarrassment and stubbornness. My name is Zhu Shanning, I am your 6th senior sister, she announced, trying to regain her dignity. I underestimated the enemy just now, don't get proud just because you won once. Xue Jing smiled warmly. 6th senior sister. Thank you for your guidance. So she was the youngest before I came, he noted silently. As the excitement settled, a female disciple with long brown hair approached him with a polite smile. Young Master Xue, let me take you to handle the entry procedures, she offered. Xue Jing blinked at the fancy honorific. What kind of title is that, he wondered. My direct disciple certainly cannot be looked down upon by others, Master Meng declared, his tone leaving no room for argument. The brown-haired female disciple nodded respectfully. From today on, you are nominally an inner ring resident, so calling you young Master Xue is only appropriate. Xue Jing scratched his cheek, visibly uncomfortable. Can we change the title? Young Master Xue is kinda awkward. He offered a compromise. How about Master Jing? She stammered. Xue Jing, whatever, as long as you guys are happy. Later, in the dojo's lounge, Xue Jing sat back on a plush sofa, the black cat resting comfortably on his lap. Dojo storming wasn't as hard as you said, Xue Jing remarked casually. She went down in one move. You are wrong, a voice corrected him immediately. She is actually much stronger than you. A holographic diagram flashed in Xue Jing's mind, comparing his stats against Zhu Shanning's. While his tactical brains were high, her raw strength and chi completely dwarfed his. But martial arts is not about comparing numbers, the lesson continued. Mood, state, intelligence, decision-making, and luck can all become keys that influence victory or defeat. Xue Jing nodded, accepting the analysis. Correct. If that girl had been even a bit cautious and waited for you to make a move before acting, it wouldn't have turned out like this. But winning is winning, there's nothing else to say. Internally, however, he remained humble. That being said, I still won by luck, he thought. Looks like I still need to practice more. The conversation shifted. By the way, where did you go last night? The cat in his lap. To squeeze someone in, I had to say hello to Grandpa Li. The disciple blinked, confused. Grandpa Li? He almost cuckolded my grandpa back in the day, Xue Jing explained with a straight face, dropping a bombshell of family history. So he was a male mistress. Master Jing, she sighed. She handed him a card. This is your identity authentication card. When you come tomorrow, just swipe the access control directly. Charm EXP plus 20. Xue Jing took the card. The next day, the Hidden Dragon Dojo was usually quiet in the early hours, but today, the air buzzed with whispers. Disciples gathered around the training hall, staring at the figure in the center who was drenched in sweat. I heard this kid has been training here all night, one whispered. So durable, another gasped. Scary strong. In the center of the room, Xue Jing was locked in a trance of pure grinding. His muscles burned, his breath came in ragged gasps, but the golden notifications kept popping, fueling his drive. Fitness EXP plus 234, Health Preservation EXP plus 133, Sports EXP plus 79, Inner Force EXP plus 89. He was close. He could feel the barrier to the next level weakening. Can't stop. Hold on a little longer, he screamed internally, forcing his trembling limbs to hold the stance. Sweat dripped onto the floorboards. Just a little bit more. Don't let a whole night's effort go to waste. Inner Force EXP plus 99, suddenly, a brilliant golden light enveloped him, signaling the breakthrough. Congratulations. You leveled up. Inner Force upgraded to LV3, ugh. The energy left him instantly. Xue Jing collapsed backward onto the floor, his chest heaving as he stared up at the ceiling. He was completely spent, but he had done it. From the shadows, the sound of a wheelchair approaching broke the silence. Master Meng Bosheng looked down at the exhausted boy with a gaze full of approval. Of all the disciples I've accepted in my life, the old master admitted, you are the strongest one. Xue Jing panted, steam practically rising from his overheated body. Before long, Master Meng continued, his eyes gleaming, you will be able to cultivate my hidden dragon sex cultivation method. Xue Jing grinned through the exhaustion. The real training was about to begin. Xue Jing didn't waste a second celebrating his level up. His mind was already on the next grind. What cultivation method? He asked eagerly, sitting across from the master. What level do I need to reach to learn it? Master Meng Bosheng stared at him. This kid really is a martial arts fanatic, he thought, amazed by the boy's endless hunger for power. The master extended his arm. Hold this. Xue Jing itched out, confused. Sparring again, he asked, grasping Xue Jing's wrist. Whoosh! The moment their skin touched, Master Meng's expression changed drastically. His eyes glowed with a terrifying red light as he probed Xue Jing's internal state. The old man grunted, surprised by what he found. Golden energy swirled between them in the spiritual vision. Xue Jing could feel a torrent of power. I feel a large amount of true chi flowing into my body, he analyzed. On the other hand, the master released his grip abruptly. He looked at Xue Jing with a sharp, interrogating gaze. What sports do you usually do? He demanded. Xue Jing rubbed his wrist, trying to look innocent. Just running and stuff. Didn't do much else, he lied, downplaying his system-assisted grinding. He looked up nervously. Master, is there something wrong with my body? Master Meng shook his head slowly, his expression solemn but awestruck. No problem. He visualized what he had just sensed, a human form composed of pure, radiant light. But your body is like it was molded by a god with OCD, Master Meng described, struggling to find the words. Every muscle, every bone, every organ, all balanced and intact to a frightening degree. Simply put, you are a martial arts prodigy. Master Meng's assessment was glowing, but internally, Xue Jing knew the truth. After activating the fighting skill, my body turned into this state, he analyzed silently. To some extent, I really count as a genius, but without a doubt, this is absolutely the credit of the panel. With his potential confirmed, Xue Jing didn't want to wait another second. So, can I learn it now? He asked, his eyes burning with intensity. That cultivation method. Master Meng placed a hand on his shoulder, halting his momentum. What are you rushing for? The old master's expression turned serious. You trained all night, your body is covered in injuries. In Master Meng's vision, he could see the hidden damage beneath Xue Jing's skin, dozens of red, inflamed stress points flaring up across his muscles and meridians. Cultivating the method now is no different from seeking death, the master warned grimly. Xue Jing's excitement cooled instantly. Then what should I do? Go to the lounge first, Master Meng instructed, pointing down the hall. I'll have someone send a sleeping dragon ointment to you in a bit. A few minutes later, Xue Jing was waiting in the dojo's lounge. Knock, come in. Xue Jing called out, standing up from the sofa. The door creaked open, and a figure stepped inside. It wasn't a generic servant or the brown-haired disciple from before. Little junior brother, a soft voice greeted him. It was Zhu Shanning, the fierce, sixth senior sister he had defeated yesterday. But she looked nothing like the warrior in the qipao. She was dressed in a loose, casual white t-shirt, clutching a small bottle in her hand. Her cheeks were dusted with a heavy blush as she looked at him shyly. I'm here to treat your injuries. Xue Jing sat frozen on the sofa, staring at the girl standing before him. The blush on her cheeks didn't make him heart flutter, it made his survival instincts scream. Sixth senior sister. Why is it you? He stammered internally, sweat pouring down his face like a waterfall. His mind raced back to the previous day, the way he had effortlessly thrown her, the way she had landed in a heap in front of the entire dojo. Public humiliation was a powerful motivator. This guy isn't here to take revenge, is she? He thought, terrified. So that's all for today. If you like this story and want to see the next part, please do like and hype this video and press the subscribe button. Thanks for watching, peace out.